Star Trek, Primitive Passenger Season 2, Episode 8, Obsidian Gambit. The Havoc hung in space, dwarfing the nearby Cardassian freighter. Inside the Havoc's expansive cargo bay, Nolan Mercer stood waiting as the shimmer of the transporter beam coalesced into the form of Gul Tropar with two aides. "Welcome aboard, Gul Tropar," Nolan said, extending his hand. "I trust your journey was uneventful." Tropar's scaled features twisted into what passed for a Cardassian smile. "As uneventful as one can hope for in this sector, Mr. Mercer." His eyes scanned the cargo bay, widening slightly at the sight of numerous large containers. "I see our arrangement has been fruitful." Nolan nodded, leading Tropar toward the containers. 5,000 metric tons of refined pergium, as agreed. Your colonies should have enough to power their reactors for the next standard year. Tropar ran a hand over one of the containers, his expression approving. "Excellent. The Central Command will be pleased." He produced a data rod from his uniform, and, as promised, the sensor array schematics you requested. I needn't remind you of the sensitive nature of this information. "Your secret's safe with me, Gul Tropar, and very much appreciated," Nolan replied, pocketing the rod. "Now, that offer to deliver your designated quantity to each of your outposts still stands. We're happy to handle the cargo so you can get on to more important matters." Nolan, hoping for a complete list of Cardassian colonies out of the deal. "Oh no, I wouldn't think of it, Mr. Mercer." He tilted his body to one side. "Besides, we have a central shipping system. This pergium will ship to our outer sectors along with medical supplies and much-needed food replicators. For the children, of course." Nolan sometimes forgot how polite and full of fluff Cardassians were, especially when lying. "That makes perfect sense. If you ever need a last-minute run to the outer edges, or even a bid on taking over your complete cargo operation, I'd be happy to put it together. As long as you sound like a salesman, no one will take you for anything else." The containers vanished in small groups as the two men sparred, as the last few were surrounded by swirling silver light and disappeared. "A pleasure, as always, Mr. Mercer." Gul Tropar leaned in and nodded. "We'll be on our way then." "Very well." Nolan also nodded. "Feel free to reach out any time." Before Nolan finished the line, the Gul and his entourage were gone, transported back to their now heavily laden ship. Nolan shook his head at the ridiculousness of two grown men, just barely able to pretend to like each other long enough to get through a transaction. He double-tapped his comm badge and transported away from the cargo bay. On the bridge, Nolan set to the task of examining the data rod. He knew Gul Tropar had either given him garbage or had called in a personal favor through back channels with the Obsidian Order to get the real thing. He thought it somewhat comical that the Obsidian Order was supposedly secret, but virtually everyone in the quadrant knew about them. That said, virtually everyone also knew better than to poke that bear. They were plenty dangerous when provoked. First, he ran some quick subroutines to ensure there were no trackers or malware on the data rod. Then plugged it into his forward console and began extracting the data. Strings of characters began streaming across 3 different view screens. Nolan was a little surprised at the amount of data. "Good morning, Alara." He reached out. "Are we decrypting all of this?" It was much more data than Nolan was expecting. Alara's voice cut through the air. "Yes, Nolan. The data is decrypting and translating as it unpacks from the rod. We have less than half of it so far. An image of a weapons platform with 3 prongs pointing down and 1 pointing up. Scrolling down the side were all measurements, materials, and design schematics needed to build this very formidable platform. That's beautiful." Nolan, as if he'd just seen Miss Universe stroll down the catwalk. Alara tapped the panel again. The weapons platform was replaced by a mid-sized surveillance ship, again with the schematics and details pouring down the side. Ships, satellites, security system software, unmanned missiles, and this. The image changed to a black, gooey-looking substance that seemed to be reaching out with liquid arms and hands. What the shit is that? Nolan's eyes like saucers. I've actually seen something like this, Nolan, but not in this galaxy. Let me read through the notes and do some initial analysis before jumping to conclusions. She tapped through several more items. A very small stealth craft designed to hide in the corona of a sun, an atmospheric flyer, a scaffolding and storage system to design a shipbuilding lattice. It almost looked like everything the Cardassians had. I have never seen any of these designs in our encounters with the Cardassians, Nolan, even when we visited Prime Worlds. These must all be prototypes held onto by the Order. Olara mused. Or Gul Tropar gave me a data rod full of failed designs, with so much crap on it that by the time I sift through and realize that it's all garbage, it'll be too late to complain. Ilara laughed. You're so suspicious of the Cardassians, you see phantoms in everything they do. Can you blame me? Nolan said in a plaintive tone. In 5 different local languages, some version of the word Cardassian means liar, deceiver, or snake. On the Dinos colony, it means lying, deceiving, snake. Sometimes I think they tell me the truth just to confuse me more. Ilara's soft laughter tumbles from all around. Nolan flopped down in the captain's chair with an exaggerated sigh of exasperation. He reveled in Ilara's laughter. He loved it. Well, this works. Ilara brought up a ship. Warp 9 something capable. I've seen enough ships I can tell you this design works. She flipped through multiple other designs. This one, that will work, that one. There's another platform. Yep, she continued. You know that my quick glance at something is all-encompassing, right, Nolan? I read and assessed the whole thing at once, in just a moment. How could I forget? So when I say that I can assess these designs with a quick glance, it's like putting a team of experts on it for a month. Ilara awaited a response. Nolan rolled his hand forward, the universal get-on-with-it gesture. Many of these designs are not Cardassian, but all that I've glanced at so far should be legit. Do we have our sensor array that we were looking for? Here. It came up on the display. This is the one we were looking for specifically. But, tapping away, we have this one, which might be better, and this, and a half-dozen more. As they scrolled across the screen, one after the other, how do you think a simple gull got his hands on a treasure trove like this? There's no way he would have handed this to me if he'd known what was on it. Tropar had no idea what he was carrying. I'd love to know the backstory of who actually stole this data and how it managed to tumble downhill to a gull who manages the supply depot. Ilara chuckling again. Ha! And how many bodies they racked up along the way. I'll bet you someone got whacked, and that's how this got misplaced. They both laughed and traded their craziest theories of spies and secret societies, assassins and cutthroats. The mood was very light after making such a great and unexpected haul. Can we back it up? Nolan asked. Maybe tuck a copy away somewhere safe. Thinking ahead of the Obsidian Order coming at him to reclaim their data rod, with Tropar's head on a stick. I was just thinking the same thing. It's huge, but with compression, it's pretty manageable. Do you think... She cut herself off and turned to Nolan. Do you remember that archaic partition system we left on the Ringworld? Vaguely. It was an ancient computer, and we couldn't figure out how it worked, right? Ilara continued. What I couldn't figure out was how to decrypt what was already in it. I could put data in, it would be encrypted, and when I took it out, it automatically decrypted. But I couldn't get decrypted data if someone else had put it in. She looked over to ensure Nolan wasn't nodding off. If I put a copy in there, I can access it any time, but no one else will be able to get my data out. Makes sense. Nolan, trying hard to act interested. Yeah, put a copy in there if it works for you. That far out, no one local is going to find it. Thinking for a minute, maybe we can break up some of the data, too. Put smaller amounts in different places, spread it out a bit. I can hold on to any near-future projects here, and we have local miners with systems big enough to hold the data. But Nolan, remember, even a few of these designs in the wrong hands, anywhere in the galaxy, could really cause problems. Keep it in one safe spot. Are you able to keep an index of what we actually have? I'd love to peruse and see what other projects we might want to take a look at. Tapping on the other console, this weapons platform we looked at earlier. I bet we could build a smaller version, just using our industrial replicators. I'd also like to see what sort of control software and intelligence is available. Nolan paced in his quarters, his mind racing with possibilities for the newly acquired designs. The gentle hum of the Havoc's engines provided a soothing backdrop to his thoughts. He was about to call Ilara when a sharp alert cut through the air. "Nolan," Ilara's voice rang out, urgency evident in her tone. A Cardassian Galar-class warship just dropped out of warp. There, hailing us. Nolan's brow furrowed. "On my way," he replied, striding quickly to the bridge. As he settled into the captain's chair, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of a Cardassian Gul. His ridged face was set in a mask of barely contained impatience. "This is Gul Danik of the Cardassian Fourth Order," the Gul announced, his voice clipped and authoritative. "I'm looking for information on the whereabouts of Gul Tropar. Our records indicate he conducted business with you recently." Nolan leaned forward, his face a careful blend of neutrality and mild concern. "Gul Danik. I'm Nolan Mercer. Yes, Gul Tropar was here not long ago for a routine transaction. Is there a problem?" Danik's eyes narrowed. "Gul Tropar has gone missing, along with a significant cache of cargo. I need to know exactly what transpired during your meeting." "Of course," Nolan replied smoothly. He tapped a few commands on his console. "I'm transmitting our transaction records now. As you'll see, it was a standard exchange, 5,000 metric tons of refined pergium for use in reactors on Cardassian outposts. Payment was processed through regular channels by Central Command." Danik's expression darkened as he reviewed the information. "We have no record of this transaction being authorized by Central Command." "Are you suggesting Gul Tropar fabricated these documents?" Nolan allowed a hint of surprise to color his features. "I wouldn't presume to make such accusations, Gul Danik. The documentation appeared to be in order. Perhaps there's been some sort of clerical error." "Perhaps," Danik replied, his tone making it clear he didn't believe a word of it. "Tell me, Mr. Mercer, did Gul Tropar mention any alternative forms of payment?" Nolan's mind raced, weighing his options. He decided to play it straight, for now. "No, Gul Danik. Everything appeared to go through official channels. Is there reason to believe otherwise?" Danik's jaw clenched. "That's classified information, Mr. Mercer. But I will say this. Gul Tropar may have been involved in activities that threaten the security of Cardassia itself. If you have any information that could help us locate him or his cargo, I strongly suggest you share it now." Nolan leaned back, his face a mask of concern. "I'm afraid I don't have any additional information, Gul Danik, but I'm deeply troubled by what you're suggesting. If there's any way I can assist in ensuring the safety of Cardassia, please don't hesitate to ask." Danik studied Nolan for a long moment, his reptilian eyes unblinking. "Very well, Mr. Mercer. I'll be in touch if we require further assistance. But be warned, if I discover you've withheld any information, the consequences will be severe." The view screen went dark, leaving Nolan alone with his thoughts. "Well," Nolan said, his voice low, "it seems our friend Tropar might be planning something big and dangerous. The question is, what do we do about it?" Nolan stood, his jaw set with determination. "We find out what Tropar's really up to, and then we decide whose side we're on." The Havoc's engines hummed to life, ready to plunge once more into the treacherous waters of Cardassian politics and intrigue. The Havoc powered through space, its silent bulk blacking out the stars. Nolan sat in the captain's chair on the bridge, poring over data streams and reports, searching for any clue that might lead him to Tropar's whereabouts. "Nolan," she began, her voice tinged with concern, "I've been analyzing comm traffic in the sector. There's been an uptick in encrypted transmissions using outdated Cardassian military ciphers." She brought up displays of the cipher's use in the sector. "It's subtle, but it's there." Nolan leaned back, rubbing his eyes. "Interesting. Old codes could mean a splinter group. That might be our boy." Pointing at the view screen, "There, that's within an hour of Tropar leaving with the Pergium." A sharp chime cut him off. "Nolan, we're receiving a transmission. Origin unknown. But the encryption, I've never seen this one before." "Put it through," Nolan said, sitting up straight. The view screen flickered, resolving into a darkened silhouette. When it spoke, its voice was distorted, unrecognizable. "Mr. Mercer," the figure began, "what I'm about to tell you must never be spoken of to Cardassians or outsiders, do you understand?" Nolan nodded. "Gul Tropar is part of a fanatical movement within Cardassian society. They call themselves the Guardians of Eternal Night. Their goal is nothing less than the annihilation of Cardassia Prime." The screen flickered for several seconds as the figure tapped on a console. "They believe our interactions with non-Cardassians are a sin against Cardassian kind, and they believe the only way to atone is to burn it all down." Nolan's blood ran cold. "Why tell me?" "Because you're the only one who can stop them without destabilizing the entire Cardassian Union. The Pergium you sold, Tropar. It's to be used in a massive radioactive bomb in our atmosphere. It's capable of rendering our homeworld uninhabitable. A dirty bomb from 5,000 metric tons of refined Pergium," Nolan said, almost in disbelief. "Find Tropar and stop Eternal Night from detonating that bomb." The figure said, "We're aware of your capabilities, Mr. Mercer. It's time to put them to good use." The transmission cut out abruptly, leaving Nolan and Ilara in stunned silence. Nolan wondered just how much they really knew of his capabilities. "Ilara," Nolan said, his voice tight, "focus scans on the area immediately surrounding Cardassia Prime. Look for any unusual concentrations of Pergium or Pergium radiation." Enda, the Havoc hurtled through space using warp propulsion. As the ship's enhanced sensors swept tighter and tighter swaths of space around the Cardassian Union's primary worlds. Finally, Alara's voice broke the tense silence. "I've found something. It's our freighter, same warp signature. It's heavily shielded, and they're trying to mask their trail. They're heading toward Cardassia's third moon, the one they call the Dark Moon. The vessel's leaking trace amounts of Pergium radiation." Nolan's jaw clenched. "That's got to be Tropar. How long at maximum warp?" "It's still almost 5 hours out, Nolan," Ilara replied. "That's not going to work," Nolan replied, doing calculations in his head. "What if we contact Cardassian authorities? See if they're able to intercept the ship from their side," Ilara suggested. "We can be there in minutes." As he stood, "We wouldn't want to upset the balance of the Cardassian Union now, would we? Plot the course. Blink us in. Take us in hot. I want every system online, shields to maximum, and every weapon option we got ready to go. But the Cardassians, they'll know we didn't use warp drive. They also won't be happy with us having weapons fully charged so close to home." She warned. "Make it happen, Ilara," he commanded resolutely, with a flash of light. The Havoc vanished, reappearing moments later in orbit around the barren, rocky, dark moon. The freighter hung in space before them, a dark, ominous shape against the star-studded backdrop. The radiation leaks were visible as the Pergium fallout reacted to the vacuum of space. "I'm detecting multiple life signs," Ilara reported. "Cardassian and something else." "Nolan, there's a massive energy buildup. I think they're preparing to detonate." Nolan's fingers flew across the console. "Keep a lock on me. I'm going over." Silver light surrounded him, and he was gone, leaving Ilara alone. In a swirl of light, Nolan materialized in the freighter's cargo hold. The scene before him was chaos. Cardassian soldiers lay unconscious or dead, while robed figures worked feverishly around a towering device humming with malevolent energy. At the center stood Gul Tropar, his eyes wild with fanatical fervor. "You're too late, Mercer," he snarled. "Cardassia will be cleansed in holy fire." Nolan dove for cover as disruptor fire lanced past him. He rolled, coming up with his own weapon drawn, instinctively returning fire and dropping several robed fanatics. Nolan moved to the center of the cargo bay near the towering doomsday device. It was a makeshift warp-style engine, set to overload and ignite the Purgium. Nolan cursed, still returning fire as he inched closer to the device. Tropar laughed maniacally as he engaged the freighter's impulse engines and pushed it out from behind the dark moon on a collision course with the planet's atmosphere. With his finger hovering over the detonator, "You can't stop the will of the eternal night." Time seemed to slow. Nolan saw Tropar's finger begin to descend. In that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. He tapped his comm badge. "Ilara," he yelled, "blink the entire freighter, now." The world twisted, reality itself seeming to tear apart. When it reformed, they were in deep space, far from any inhabited worlds. Nolan tapped his comm again and vanished in swirling light. Tropar stared in disbelief. What have you done?" Incensed. "What have you done?" he screamed with psychotic fervor. From the view screens of the Havoc, we see the freighter erupt and the hull begin to breach. Then a blinding, massive explosion. Fire sparks and debris flying in all directions. Cardassian ships began to warp in around them, alerted by the Havoc's impossible feat of translocation and the disturbances around the dark moon. The Havoc's blackout hull, dwarfing the warships that began to surround it. "Power down your weapons immediately, or be destroyed." An angry legate's face took up the entire view screen. Nolan waved a hand and nodded. Ilara shut down almost everything. "You are in violation of Cardassian space. Identify yourself and prepare to be boarded." Ilara shook her head with a dismissive look. There was no way the Cardassians could board the Havoc. "Legate, I don't think we've had the pleasure. I'm Nolan Mercer. We know who you are." The legate snarled, saliva spattering through his clenched teeth, his anger carrying a force all its own, now even more elevated by Nolan's casual introduction. "I'm Legate Vlakar. I'm commandeering your ship, and you, Mr. Mercer, will be getting a taste of real Cardassian hospitality." His eyes bulging with anger, at least a dozen ships surrounded the giant black spot that was the Havoc. They had all begun powering weapons, while the legate vented his frustrations. "So, do we just blink out?" Nolan asked Ilara. She already had the jump coordinates in the ship's system. Ilara kept a few catch-all jumps handy in case she had to move the Havoc quickly with no time for calculations. The Ringworld was her favorite go-to. The view screen flickered, and the angry legate's face was replaced by a black silhouette. The distorted voice crackled. "You see, Mr. Mercer, we knew you had the capability to save all of Cardassia from eternal night." As he speaks, we see over the legate's shoulder, and he is seeing the shrouded figure as well. It's on the view screens of every Cardassian ship. Mercer replied to the darkened figure. "We're happy to help where we can, of course, but if you mean to board us and take my ship, things are going to get very ugly, very fast." The dread ship, Havoc, is designed for destruction. The smaller ships began powering down weapons and pulling away from Mercer. Only the larger ship with the legate remained. The black silhouette spoke but one more time. "While we appreciate your help, take careful note." And here he enunciated very clearly, "Don't test the order, Mr. Mercer." The last Cardassian ship, the larger warbird with the legit aboard, began to peel away from the Havoc. Legate Vlakar once again appeared on the screen, only slightly less agitated. This isn't over, Mercer. We're aware of your activities in Cardassian space. We see what you're up to. I'm just a simple vendor, Lakar, he said matter-of-factly. I've been fortunate to conduct business, in a small manner at least, with numerous Cardassian military and civilian branches. I'm an approved vendor with Central Command's General Purchasing Department. Nolan's polite response refueling Legate Lakar's unbridled rage. We know who you really are. His voice strained and eyes bulged. Everyone knows General Purchasing is a nest of obsidian snakes. Careful, Legate Lacquer. Don't test the order. He calmly repeated. Gul Donnick sat at a table opening a tall, thin bottle of Kanar. I think you'll find this vintage especially refined, pouring 2 glasses. Another Cardassian sat with Donnick, his back to us. Any vintage one can survive is a good vintage these days, he said quite casually. After seeing the telemetry, do you think we can take Mercer's ship? Honestly. Donnick waited for an answer. If such a thing is possible. The other figure chuckled. We are so well trained in our lies, I often wonder if we can remember what the truth was before all this got started. He paused. I have so many different lies between so many different people, it's just a matter of time before it all comes apart. Well then, honestly speaking, I don't see any way to breach the ship without being invited in. And once invited in, I'm not convinced there is a way to get back out. The hull itself is more akin to stone than to metal, but there is still no way to fully analyze what it's made of. Setting down his empty glass, perhaps if we applied significant disruptor fire, we could learn more. Oh, no need for an overt action like that. We'll crack Mercer in time. He swirled the last of his Kanar in the bottom of the glass. Maintain surveillance. We'll find further uses for Mercer as things progress. Epilogue. Elara laughing. Derelict loaded commander. Fire derelict, he shouted back. Elara smashed a button on her console, and outside we see the Havoc use a pulsar beam to launch a battered, stripped ship, full of holes and missing doors, out into space. It's moving at a high rate of speed and tumbling out of control. Nolan immersed, leaning forward. Come on. Suddenly, 4 four-pronged unmanned weapons platforms lit up and opened fire with phasers and pulse cannons, wreaking destruction on the wreckage. Debris spiraling in all directions. Nolan burst out laughing, and Elara did the same. Why is that so fun? Nolan shouted. It never gets old, Elara chimed in.